Alrighty, it's story time. The year is 2018, and so Blizzard has just announced the second MDI ever. So the first MDI was during Tumas Argeris. It was on patch like 7.2.5, and then Blizzard comes out with 7.3, and they have Antorus, and they announce a second MDI. And this is before I was washed. Now, very washed, but back then I was actually quite good. I want to say we were top 2 or 3 teams for pushing keys in NA. I want to say we were probably top 5 or 6 in the world, something like that. We were actually quite good at the time. Overall ranks, yeah, rank 12 in my region. Rank 32 in the world for all classes and roles. So we were actually a pretty good group of players back then. I was not horrible. And so whenever they announced the second MDI, the MDI was actually on like pretty high key formats, and the qualifiers required you to do the highest keys possible to even be able to qualify to do the MDI. And so that was something that we, as a group, were like, oh, this is cool. We want to do this. And we didn't have necessarily a 5-man group at the time. And as you can see, I was DPSing. And we lacked a consistent healer in our group. And so I decided that it was going to be a good job to heal the MDI and pick up healing as a Resto Druid. Because Resto Druid was pretty good back then. I know that Resto Druid hasn't been good for a while, but Resto Druid was very, very good back in Legion, just because of the amount of throughput and the amount of damage they were able to do in cat form. And so I decided that I was going to heal. And then we decided that we were going to commit a lot of time and effort into doing the MDI. And the time trials rolled around. The time trials were Maw of Souls, Karazhan Upper, and Neltharian's Lair. And honestly, we were actually doing quite well, I would say, for time trials. If you look at this 807 Maw of Souls, it's a time that I'm still happy with even to this day. I want to say, whenever we posted the time, it was world number 2. It was only beaten by like a Chinese team that was playing double subtlety rogue, which sub rogue back then was stupid. And then we didn't really go to improve it. We were owning in Maw of Souls. And we were looking like we were going to get the second seed for a while until we really flubbed our upper Karazhan. Our upper Karazhan time was horrendous. Our read on what the meta was going to be for upper Kara times was horrible. We had an insanely good time whenever we ran a healer, but once people started 4 DPSing it, it was quite bad. And so our time trials happened, and we were able to get the 5th seed, so we qualify. We were fine anyways, and so our qualifier was okay. And I was still learning healer, and I was improving with time, and you can see how much damage stuff is doing in this run even right here. This is a 20 was not like the highest level of key, but you want some of the qualifiers I want to say were on like a 24. Yeah, there was 24 Neltharian's Lair, which is basically like a live level key. That was insane that we were doing 24s for our time trial qualifiers. So yeah, that rolls around, and we qualify. And we named our team Sinking Ship, but it might have been foreshadowing. We just didn't know it at the time. So Broadcast Day shows up, and we've been practicing a lot. How the format worked at the time was the first map was set, and the affixes were set for the first map. So our first map was Maw of Souls 22, and it was Fortified Quaking Bursting. And then maps 2 and 3 were loser's choice. So loser of the previous map got to pick the map out of a pool of maps. So you got, I don't even remember, probably 5 or 6 maps. And then not only did they get to pick the map that was out of the pool, but they got to pick the affixes that were on top of it. And it was super stupid. And everybody picked bolstering or explosive or something like that because they know that you were not practicing. And we picked, in our map, we picked a fortified bolstering sanguine Eye of Ashara, and then we got picked against us Volcanic Grievous, Vault of the Wardens, but they knew we hadn't played Vault of the Wardens and stuff like that. And the way that you would know this is you would slash who the members of the other group, and you would kind of write down and track what maps they were practicing. And so you kind of knew what you needed to be able to know and be able to practice. We thought that our counter, I mean, it's not like super relevant now, but we thought that the counter pick was going to be Dark Art Thicket, and instead they went to Vault of the Wardens. So we practiced Dark Art Thicket, but they counter picked on Vault of the Wardens, which was a dungeon that we hadn't practiced. And this was pretty consistent with what other teams did. They would pick super cringe affixes like bolstering Volcanic to be able to just because knew that nobody was playing bolstering Volcanic during practice. It looks like these people picked Grievous Volcanic, but they picked Raging and stuff like that too. And it was a situation where Raging, bolstering, explosive, these are all years ago. This is 5 years ago. These are the worst iterations of bolstering. This is the worst iteration of explosive. This is the worst iteration of all of these affixes, and it's impossible to kill these orbs, and it's impossible to kill his bolstering and stuff like that. And so people would pick cringe shit because they knew that you wouldn't have practiced it. And that's how the format functionally worked, and there's a reason that's been changed because it was bad. But that's functionally how the format worked. And so broadcast day rolls around, and we've been practicing, and we felt actually pretty good about our chances, and we knew that our times, while we thought that we should be the second seed. Legitimately, we thought that we were good enough to be the second seed for this. We thought that our Maw Souls and our Neltharian's Lair were on par with some of the better teams in the world, and definitely the better teams in our region. And so we thought that our time trial times, like we thought that we could have been the second seed, and we definitely thought that we could make it out of the tournament like top two, right, and qualify for global qualifiers. That's how it worked. Is the top two teams made it to Worlds. It wasn't a global qualifier. They made it to Worlds, and then the rest of the teams went home from your region. And it was like region locked, right? Where it was the top two of OS, it was the top two of China region. OS was also, I think they're considered like APAC, and they had like Korea and stuff like that in them as well. And then it was top two from EU, and it was top two from NA. And so our goal was to get top two because we thought that we were good enough to. Obviously, it didn't happen, but we did believe that we were able to. And so first map rolls around, and we go to Maw Souls, and we actually finished Maw Souls faster than Team Limit at the time. We're competing against Limit Max. This is back when I actually played, as opposed to raid leading outside the raid. And so we actually completed Maw Souls faster, but we had 4 deaths. I think we got farmed by like a pole that was like in the middle of the ship, from what I remember. We got leapt on by the dogs that was near the mini boss pole, and I want to say we accrued a lot of deaths from that. That was a pull that was really easy to wipe too from memory. Yeah, so this pull right here, I want to say, just farmed us a couple of, we had a couple of deaths to people getting barreled. It was what it looked like here. And so then we had, I want to say, some deaths to bursting as well, because the pack didn't die on time, is what I believe happened. And so we had 4 deaths, and so we ended up losing Maw Souls, because Maw Souls is like a 9-minute dungeon, and unless the team full wipes, which, by the way, very easy to fully wipe in Maw Souls. The fact that neither of us wiped in this dungeon is astonishing. It looks like every other team had a considerable amount of deaths. Unfortunately, we went against the team that didn't have an insane amount of deaths. There was even a 23 death Maw. So yeah, that happens. Then we take Limit to Eye of Ashara. You know, we farm them in Eye of Ashara. We pick, funnily enough, we pick EOA because we know they don't have a way to be able to do the jump skip up to the third boss at all. And so, or I guess it was the 4th boss at this time. We know that they didn't have a way to even do the jump skip up to the 4th boss, so we know they had to clear a round. And so we thought that EOA was just the freest dungeon ever for us. I'm dead. Why am I dead? It doesn't matter. And then we get taken to Vault of the Wardens. We lose Vault of the Wardens. It is what it is. Like, we were actually kind of close. We were close for reasons that the dungeon was bugged, and I want to say they had 2 deaths to the elevator bug. But anyways, it was kind of close, and it was an unfortunate loss from our end, and we kind of were annoyed. And so this isn't the part where we 4-man yet, but we're getting there, I promise. So what happens after this? Tensions are high. we are not happy, and an argument ensues. Okay, so we practice for a little bit because since we lost, we knew that we had to make like a lower bracket run the day after. We had no more matches that day. It was only round 1 that day from memory right now. And so we knew that we needed to make a lower bracket run. And so we practiced for, I want to say a couple hours. I want to say like 2 hours. And then we were like, we could probably just take the rest of the day off. It's going to be fine. We just need to recover our mental. But tensions start running hot like after the practice is over. And we get into an argument that, and I don't remember exactly how the argument starts, but I remember the comment, we wouldn't even be in this position if you didn't die in Vault of the Wardens. And it was directed at me, right? It was directed at me by our Warlock player at the time. And I just remember responding, we wouldn't have been in this position if you did more damage to Helia. I don't know why your damage was so fucking low. You're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. Clearly, and there were some choice words that were said. It was a lot more hostile than that. It was like, you were a fucking moron. You don't know what the fuck you're even talking about. Stop being trash. And it was, it was very heated between the two of us. Of course, we cared a lot. We cared a lot about winning. We were quite upset that we spent this much time and weren't able to have results that we thought that we should have, right? We are a team that we think that we should be the number 2 seeded team for this tournament. We thought that we were quite good, and we put in a lot of practice and a lot of time. And so then whenever we almost immediately didn't have results, tensions ran hot. You know, it is what it is. And so we left that conversation, and we were like, okay, we show back up 2 hours early tomorrow to compete. Apparently, the argument was so stiff that our Warlock player didn't want to play anymore, and he did not tell us in advance. And we show up 2 hours early, like we had planned for our match. And we're like, oh, where's our Warlock? Where could he be? And then he just is not posting in Discord. He's not online on Discord. He's appearing offline. Eventually, he comes online on mobile on Discord, doesn't post anything, and we're like, oh, what the fuck? And it's starting to get closer and closer to tournament start time. And it's about 30 minutes until tournament starts. And the broadcast comes up, and they're on like a waiting screen. And I DM one of the admins. I'm like, yo, so what happens if we have 4 players? And they're like, oh, God. They're like, I'll see what I can do. And so then we get offered an opportunity. We could either, choice 1, forfeit, or choice 2, 4-man the keep. And I think you're seeing where this goes. And we're like, and so we're talking about it. We're like, well, it would be kind of funny to 4-man. That would be kind of funny. And maybe we could squeak out a win. We were never squeaking out a win, but it was like maybe we could squeak out a win somehow, but we're never going to squeak out a win. It says 6 years ago on this VOD. It's wild to think about. And so we decided to 4-man. and you can see right here, we only have 4 people. And this goes honestly about as well as it could have. We were actually kind of doing okay. It wasn't great, but the other team that we were playing against, Team Stupid Mistakes, they had a lot of deaths, and they were not cooking. We were, and it was actually strangely competitive for how close it was. And I remember not necessarily the upper Karazhan, because upper Karazhan 4-manning is nuclear difficulty. We both had infinite deaths, but the Dark Art Thicket was not that bad. So we were actually on the 3rd boss as they're completing the dungeon in Dark Art Thicket. We were actually kind of owning for only having 4 people. But yeah, that was the end of the MDI experience for me. Unfortunately, like myself and the Warlock have since, made amends. I apologized. He apologized. It was an unfortunate situation. We thought that we were going to kind of own, and then I think our expectations, once that was a bit fractured, it was, our team chemistry was horrible. And it was, 2018. And so it's been a while. But yeah, that was my experience with the MDI and how I 4-manned the MDI. And I will leave you with this great video that was made at the time. And I hope to see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.
Stop! What do you command?
It's just good business.
Abandon ship! Abandon ship! Abandon ship!
Rest in peace, team sinking ship.